Aditya Thakur is a developer advocate at 100 MS and has 2+ years of experience in building cross-platform applications using Flutter. He's a content creator with more than 9K subscribers on YouTube. Apart from this, he's also been the speaker at prominent tech and Flutter conferences. So yeah, Aditya, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I hope I'm audible fine. Um, a really great introduction. I'll just quickly go ahead and share my screen. And give me a minute. Okay. So I hope my screen is visible and really excited to be here today. So we'll be talking about Flutter over these 2 days. I have structured the event, like the whole part of it, to get you started with Flutter development and hopefully give you some idea of how can you go further in it, like build your projects and then hopefully become a Flutter developer sometime. So over the over like today and tomorrow, what we'll be doing is, like, first, today we'll start off with an introduction to what Flutter is. We'll talk about Dart programming for a bit, like how programming is done in Dart, and I'll also, like, by the end of today's session, take you through some like basic things in Flutter. So that would be like a basic introduction, and we'll do it online. Like, you do not need to have anything set up on your PC. Like, you can open it up in your browser and get started there. But for tomorrow, like, I would love, if you can install Flutter, and that way we can take it a bit more hands on, build a project by the end of it. So really excited to be here today. I'll talk about what Flutter is in a bit. Starting right off with the introduction of myself again. I have like over 9,000 subscribers on YouTube. I make videos around Flutter. I currently work as developer advocate at 100 MS. So it's a audio video SDK company. We help developers like you integrate live audio video into their applications. I have 1,500 plus developer community on Discord where we majorly talk about Flutter. I've been a speaker before at Flutter Vikings and events like here and there. Um, Today we are talking about Flutter Forward. So Flutter Forward was actually an event that happened in January this year in Nairobi, Kenya. It was majorly there to discuss like where Flutter is going as a framework. And talking about that itself, a lot of the time that you spend on your mobile phone or like mobile device is generally spent in applications. So this could be like social media apps where you talk to your friends, Instagram, Facebook, maybe like YouTube where you watch videos and such. So this is like one reason why we should be talking about mobile development, because as people spend more time on their mobile devices, they do it in applications instead of visiting websites on browser. So if you decide like, okay, I want to learn mobile development, there are two operating systems that we normally have to cater to. So one is Android, one is iOS. um, as platforms, like, you might have an Android device or you might have a iOS device that you generally use. uh, I want you to, if you can, quickly comment down what operating system do you have. Like, if you're an Android user, like, type in Android there in the chat. Let's make it a bit more interactive here. Type in iOS if you have an iPhone there. And when you think about mobile development, like, you think about going ahead with it, the first choice, or like the first idea that comes to mind is, using like using like Android Studio and building apps with it. Android Studio makes it very easy to build apps. Like, you can drag and drop some elements on screen. You would have like a XML layout, then you can use a programming language like Java, Kotlin to add functionality and ship this application to Play Store. The only downside or the problem with this, I feel, is the application that you will build would be available on Play Store and can only be used by Android, can only be used on Android devices. There could be friends of yours that you have, iOS devices, iPhones, and such. So you also want people on those devices to be able to use your applications. And you might also need to build out like a landing page where you can get people to sign up for your app. So when I first started, the main reason why I started with Flutter development was, uh, we were building this application for a campus club. So it was a mental health club, but we also wanted like when we started building, our obvious choice was going ahead with Android. uh, like if someone can mute, please keep your mics closed unless you have a question to ask. That would be really cool. So when we first started, we were building this application for a mental health club, and we wanted, our idea too was going ahead, with building with Kotlin. That seemed the obvious way, but the application that we would build out could only be used by people who had Android devices. So that is when Flutter came to our rescue. Flutter is a cross-platform framework. What it basically does is you write code once and you can run it on different operating systems that are out there. So let us say you're trying to build applications for mobile, you can use Flutter. If you're trying to build applications for web, you can still use Flutter. And if you want to build applications for desktop, you can still use Flutter. As of Flutter 3, the Flutter framework caters to these different operating systems. So there's Windows, Mac OS, Linux that come under desktop that you can build apps for. You can build web applications, and you can also build for iOS and Android devices. For startups, for startups, this means that they don't have to manage separate teams like iOS developers and Android developers. They can just have one team of Flutter developers to build the applications for these different platforms. For students like if you are in your first second year, this means like you get access, if you learn Flutter, to ship your applications to multiple operating systems. So you could have projects like like you could have a Windows app added to your resume. Flutter apps can be shipped out as .exe file, so anyone with the Windows can install it. You can build web apps that would be hosted on a website, so users can try it out. You can also ship to iOS and Android, App Store and Play Store respectively. So that is a very big developer advantage, and that is one reason why we should be excited to try out Flutter or use it. So there are other features that Flutter offers. One is high velocity development. So I'll also show this in practice. Flutter has something called hot reload. So as you type code, you can quickly see changes on screen. Then number two, there is an expressive and flexible toolkit. You have a lot of widgets to try out. You have a lot of, you can get access to every pixel on screen and build beautiful applications. And lastly, if you are a end user, you wouldn't generally notice the difference between a native application and a Flutter app. It almost builds native iOS and Android experience for users. Also a fun fact, like if you have been using Google Pay for payments, the latest Google Pay applications is built using Flutter. So you've already been touched by Flutter, and you're using such apps in production. uh, there are a lot of other examples of how Flutter can be used. So one such is like this example by Roman, where he bought a LED screen of Alibaba and is running a Flutter app on it. Flutter can be used to build for Google Home devices and such applications. There is also this amazing example by Renan where he built out a game. So this uses the Flame engine and it runs using Flutter. So it's like a Flutter app for Wear OS, and you can also like build out your applications that would run on your watch. So this is also another advantage. And one more thing. So this week, I am talking about Flutter extended at a number of GDSCs and events around here in India. So we're doing a small giveaway. And if you want to participate in it, like we are giving away this complete Flutter and Dart bootcamp. So this is the same course that I used to start my Flutter journey. And we're also doing like one-on-one mentorship calls. Like time is our most valuable resource. So if you want to take part in this, like you can fill out this form at aditadhako.in/giveaway. We'll announce the winners by March 18th. That is after all the events have been concluded. So now I'll come to building part of the Flutter. So like how our applications actually built. To get started with that, I'll take you through the flutter.dev website. One thing that you would notice on the website, like all the features are mentioned here as well, fast and more. but they have also mentioned some of the companies that use Flutter app in production. So there is obviously Google. Google has its Google Pay app built in Flutter that we just talked about. But the Google Classroom app is also built in Flutter, like the latest versions. And Philips Hue uses it, Flutter. There is also a video around how Tencent uses Flutter. So if you're familiar with PUBG, the game, it uses Flutter for its community module. Like a module inside the game is built using Flutter, the community part, which allows users to interact with each other. And there are a lot of other big tech companies like BMW's My BMW app is built using Flutter. So it's being used in production at home here in India. To a lot of companies use it. Uh, so how, like, okay, so we decide, okay, you have to build applications. Then you are aware of like Flutter helps you build cross platform, but how do you actually get started building these applications? In Flutter, the first step is definitely the installation. So you can click on the get started button, and this should take you through a process to install the Flutter SDK for your operating system. So if you are on Windows, the process would look like, downloading the zip, extracting those files and updating the path. And then you'll also need to set up an ID. With Flutter, you can either use Android Studio or VS Code. So Android Studio, I feel, is a bit easier when you're just starting out to debug and such. So I would recommend Android Studio. You'll also need to set up a Android device. You can use your own mobile phone to run applications on, or you can set up like an emulator or a simulator if you are on Mac, and that way you can test out your applications. So I want you to do this, like the installation part, but this would be for tomorrow, because when we'll be building a project, we want to have it on our device and like write code there. For today, what we'll do is like we'll use an online IDE to just run code in. So one of this example is zap.run. So this is like an online Dart and Flutter sandbox by the Invertase team. It will let you run Flutter application on the browser, and we'll just use it to like do some basic stuff in it. And so if I'll also drop this link in chat, if you're trying to follow along, maybe you know s- go ahead, go to this link and just open it in a browser on the site. So if you're on PC, like if you can open a new tab to check this out, or if you're like on a mobile device, I don't know if they support mobile, uh, but let's walk through this really quickly. So if you click on get started, like it asks you like what project do you want to use. So we'll go ahead with a new Flutter project, and this would create a new Flutter project. And for some reason, uh, pub get failed. Okay. So this is like the default application that Flutter comes with. Even if you run it on your own device, even if you run it on your own device, like this application on the right is the default application that Flutter launches with, except for the use material. uh, so if I just save this file and where is I think it doesn't support uh, eh, let me relaunch this project once, maybe refresh it. For some reason pubget keeps failing for me. So like this is the default application that Flutter is built with. So even if you run it on your like Windows or like Mac OS, you would get a counter application. I'll also quickly do that for this, but for today, like we'll only use the online ID. I'll quickly navigate to desktop. I'll also zoom in a bit so this is better visible. So after like we have Flutter installed on our device, we can run the command flutter create and name of the application. So this could be like a new app. Like we'll type in this command flutter create and the name of the project that we are trying to create. So this would build like a new folder here, and Flutter would write around 129 files for us. So if I open up this new app folder that I just created, you'll see like with Flutter 3, it creates all these different operating, like it creates folders for these operating systems. So there is Android folder, it would have like the Android side of code. There is iOS folder, Linux, Mac OS, web, and Windows. So these are all the 6 platforms that we had talked about that Flutter lets you build. If I open this project in Visual Studio Code really quickly, like I'll go to desktop, open this new app that I just created, you'll see like we have all these folders. But you'll ask me like, okay, so do we have to write code for all these different platforms? No, we do not have to do that. In Flutter, all the code that we'll write will go inside this lib folder. So lib is the directory that we'll work with. We'll write our code inside this. There is a main.dart file. So what happens with Flutter is whenever we are writing code, we write in a programming language called Dart, and we'll cover like the basic concepts of it today. So all our code is written in Dart programming language. Flutter takes this code and it ships out to all these different platforms. So it's Android, iOS, and it will build applications for all these platforms. So you do not have to worry about writing for these platforms separately. Similarly, like this lib folder is here. Similarly, if you go over to your online ID, we also have a lib folder here, and we are generally working in this main.dart file. So this is the main.dart file that we are working in. And like this code that is written here renders this on screen. So this is like a simple counter app. If I run this project, even like if I just run this project, this too should create a counter like application. But okay, nice. So this too should create like a counter application, and it would not have the similar UI. I'll just show you really quickly what I mean by that. um, okay, so this is the counter app that Flutter creates. uh, so this would look something like this. I'll also bring out this code here on the side. And to get what we have here, we can just enable one flag. So this flag is called use material 3, and if we set this to true, this application that is now available here is similar to the one we have. So this is just to if you go back later and you try to create a project and you see like, okay, this is not the same UI that I have. This is only because they have enabled material design 3, which is the latest update in material design that is available. So if this doesn't make sense, do not worry. All you have to do so far is create a new project inside this zap.run. We have something like this, and now we'll write some code here to see how Flutter works. And this might be a bit unstable, like this online IDs. I haven't used it before. I just know like this is an online sandbox if you do not want to install Flutter. But I would recommend installing it. Like after this session, please go home and check out a video on how to install Flutter, because this is more easier than using this right now. So installation of Flutter is available on the docs itself. Let's keep that aside for a bit. What we want to talk about is Dart programming language. So when you're working with Flutter framework, we use Dart programming language. Dart is a very powerful programming language. It is client optimized language for fast apps. Um, there is a story about how Flutter came around to using Dart, because Dart was internally at Google being used by their ads team. So when the Flutter team was looking for a language that would support this, like it would allow you to build applications for multiple platforms, Dart seemed like the obvious choice. So this is why they use Dart programming. And we can also try this out in browser. So we can go over to try Dart. One of the basic concepts that we need to know is like this is the try dart, and this is the hello world function that we have here. So I'll just zoom in a bit. As with any programming language, main is always the first function to get control. So we type in main function something, we type in a function like this, we open these brackets for arguments, and then we have the function body. In that we can run the print command to print something out to console. So if I run this project here, it should print out hello world, which is like the basic hello world program in Dart. But what we can also do is, we can come back to our main function where we'll be writing code really quickly. So we can also create variables in Dart. So we use the var keyword to create a variable, and we can give it like a string value. So okay, so I've given it a string value, and I can use this variable to like show some data. If I wanted to use it inside my print statement, I'll have to use like the dollar keyword to use this variable. Okay, keep control plus s. Okay, so once you do that, you can run this project, and it should print out like hello Aditya to the console. And if we go over to their documentation, Dart has something called a language tour. In this language tour, it covers a lot of these basic concepts in Dart programming language. So we have like how a basic program look like. So we talked about this. You can create variables. You can also create like numbers using like the var keyword. Could you mute? Okay. So we can also give like numbers, and use that number inside our print statement. It work fine, hopefully. It's number dot to string. We'll also have to do that, but anyways, it works fine without that as well. This is because we can use the var keyword to create, or we can define explicit types. So this could be like a string. Dart can infer types, so you do not have to write a like string name and everything, but if you want to, you can also do that. Inside this language tour, what you'll find is like all these important Dart concepts. So I'll just refresh this page once. Sorry, not this. We have to go down to language samples. So this language sample would have this everything from hello world program to how variables are created. So we use the var keyword. There is also how you can use control flow statement. So the if else part of it, like if you're familiar with the programming language before, it should seem familiar. We type in if, we give it a condition, and then we like open brackets for the body part of it, and we can print out something based on this condition. Or we can check for like we can just do else, or we can add a else if we want to check a condition. There are loops mentioned here. How do you create a loop? And how do you create like a function in Dart? Functions are again like this was a main function. We can create another function by just typing in the name of the function, its return type, and some arguments to it. So that way you can print out. uh, what I do not want to cover with this 1 hour workshop is these like basic programming basics. So if you want to check this out, like I would recommend just going over through this doc again. Like all the Dart concepts that we'll need throughout this workshop, like I'll mention them if that is a problem. This is only just to give you like a starting point to Dart programming if you need it later. And we wanted to get accustomed to like basic Dart. So we want to know like how main function is done, how variables are created. We'll use that. Print statements, we'll need that in future. We also need to know like how classes are created. So this is like a class example. Normally with any class, what we can do is we can type in the class keyword, and then also type in the name of the class. So it could be like a car class, and then open these brackets. Now car could have like a property like number of wheels maybe, and we'll also need to create an constructor. So constructors generally have the same name as the class, and we can set these properties, can set number of wheels, so we can get like int number of wheels, and set this, like I'll have to check this out again. Okay, so okay, so we don't do it like this, we set it this dot number of wheels, and that is how you'll create a constructor. This is an example of constructor. uh, we can also create like methods inside this. So this could be like a method that prints out print number of wheels, and to create a method we again type in something like this, and it would just have this print statement, and it can print out this number of wheels here. Okay, so this is like the basic example of how a class works. It is important to have your oops programming concepts really strong here. But if I come back to my Flutter project, well, what you will notice is we have our main function again, something similar to what we were looking at in the Dart programming tour. In Flutter, the main function would be the first one to get control. So what it does is basically runs this my app widget, and we have defined this my app widget here. What you'll also notice with this my app is like this extends something called a stateless widget class. So in Flutter, I'll take it to the normal code here again, just because like this allows zoom in. I'm trying to zoom in here, but it doesn't. So we have the same code here, which is like the main function. So it runs our first widget in class. In Flutter, we have two types of widgets. One is stateless, and the other are stateful widgets. So we'll see both of them in action today. And the first type of widgets that I'll talk about are stateless widgets. You can think of these as the first type of widget, and normally whenever you are creating a new widget, your you would create a stateless widget. Like like you can start out with the stateless widget, and then depending on your requirement, convert it to a stateful widget. And what are these widgets? So let us like say I want to create a new class like home screen. So I'll type in home screen here. So we saw like this is how you create a new class. You use the class keyword, type the name of the class. Now to make it into a widget, I can extend an abstract class which is defined by the Flutter team. So would be this stateless widget class. And as soon as I do that, if I keep my cursor on top of it, you'll see like this is an abstract class. And as soon as I do that, we are getting some error here. So if I click on quick fix, it would show me a few things. One of these things is adding a build method. So in Flutter, you can think of these widgets as the building blocks of your application. You can think of them as Lego blocks. You put one on top of the other, and you'll have like a complete application built out. So with like whenever we are creating a new widget, they are basically classes. So we typed in class home screen, and we extended this abstract class. It just requires us to implement something called a build method. So this is again a method, because we have the name of the method here, we have its arguments here, and we are just opening these two brackets. And this returns something called a widget. So what we want to do with this build method is return what we want to see on screen. In our case, this could be some text. So we'll type in text and hello world here. And when I save this file, like you'll see no changes happening because we haven't really called this home screen anywhere. And I can, for a really quick example, call this here, save this file, and you'll see like hello world appear on app, but it looks like really bad right now. uh, this up till here, lets you build like a hello world on screen. And let's talk about this widgets a bit more to make it even clearer. So I come back to my presentation again. We saw like how to create a new Flutter project. We were using the Flutter create command, and we want to be able to run this on the browser. For some reason that is not working well for me. So if like in the same example, I cut out the bottom code. I type in stateless. So it will create a stateless widget for me. So you do not have to like do it from scratch, write down these arguments yourself. And instead of this placeholder right here, I can just type in text uh, and give it some value like hello world, and copy this home screen from here, paste it here instead of this home page that is already there, and create these two brackets. If I save this file, it should build this for me, and I'm getting some build error. Not really sure why. Invalid request body. I'll see if sign in can fix this issue, but okay. So something appears to be not working with this tool, and I'm not really sure why, but let's just then drop this for now. If I come back to the presentation again, we talked about how to do this hello world, but let's understand these widgets in depth. So I'll start off with this small Flutter crash course. Uh, in Flutter, like as we talked about, everything is a widget. So you have these small, like you can think of them as Lego blocks. If you're coming from web development, you can, if you have done React in the past, in React we have something called components. Similarly, in Flutter we have these widgets. If you do not have prior programming experience, you can think of these widgets as Lego blocks, and we'll put one or like we'll go on putting these on screen, and you'll have like a complete application built out. uh, as mobile developer, this would be your canvas, this empty mobile screen. And let us say you work for a company, and there the product manager or whoever is in charge tells you to add some text in Flutter. Like when we are doing that, we'll type in text, which is a widget. We'll open these brackets and we'll tell it what to show on screen. So this could be like a small string. uh, you want to show like hello Aditya, hello world. So you'll type in text, you open these brackets, and you tell it what to show, and it would do that for you. The UI might look a bit different, but the idea is like you'll use the text widget to show something on screen which is like text related. Similarly, let us say the manager tells you to add an image now. For this too, we have a widget. So for adding an image, there is a widget called image. So you can type in image, you can tell it what to show on screen, and it will show that image on screen. In our example, we are using a network image, like we are pulling this image from this URL that we are passing in here, and it will take that image, fetch it, and show it on your mobile application. Similarly, when we are building more complex UIs, so you might be familiar with the WhatsApp UI. It's like very big, but what I want you to imagine is like a lot of these elements go on repeating one under the other. So on the chat screen we have our like the user that we are talking to, their profile picture, and then we have some text in front of it. So these elements go on repeating. This is the first list element. Then we have one more which is almost similar, a DP in front and then some text, DP text, and so on and so forth, just one under the other. So if we break down this complete application, we would have something like this: an app bar on top. Then we also have this tab bar like charts and status and calls, but let's not focus on that. We have a list type orientation that goes on repeating one under the other, like the DP part and then some text in front of it and so on. And we also have like a floating action button, something similar to what we saw inside our application when we were running it. So when we clicked on that button, it would increment the number by one. But in WhatsApp 2, we have this type of button to create like a new chat. So some of these widgets, what they do is they can only take in one child. So think of it as a tree structure. You have your base widget, then you put one widget on top of it, it would become its child. But there are also widgets that can, have multiple children. And to build something like the WhatsApp UI that we see here, we are building these multiple widgets on screen while having the base layout almost similar. Like you have your chart screen and you'll have multiple widgets on top of it. So one such widget that allows this is called column. And what column does is it takes in a list of different widgets. We talked about text, like it is used to show some text on screen. So we can use like multiple text widgets in a column fashion, like one under the other, and we'll get a UI something similar to this. So Flutter crash course. To quickly summarize, if like I was too fast with it, the only points that you need to remember are like: one, everything in Flutter is a widget. Number two, we type in the name of the widget. So let us say you want to add text, you type in text, you tell it what to show and it will do that. And number three, you do not have to learn all these widgets. What you can do is go over to flutter.dev again, go down to get started, or like more appropriately, go down to docs, and you'll find something called widgets catalog here. So this has like a complete list of widgets that are available to use. We talked about text. So there are two ways you can add text: one is rich text and one is the normal text. It shows an example of how you can use this widget. So you typed in text, you told it the value that you want to see, and it will do that for you. Similarly, there is a widget to add image. So if we go over to assets images, you'll find a image widget here. There is also an example of how you can use it. So you type in image, you tell it the image that you want to show, and it will show that on screen. So this is an example of the image widget. If we come back to the code, let's try zap.run one last time if it works for me. And you can have it open in your browser itself, create a new Flutter project. Let's again, pubget failed for some reason. Let us try changing something here and let's see if that is working. So if I change this text here with something like crash course and build this, maybe would it work? No. Okay. So this seems to be failing for me, but if it is like working fine for you, so you can follow along there on the browser. Uh, what I want you to now show you is some of these widgets in action. So all you have to remember is like there are widgets available for you to use, and if I just clear out the code from down here, I would be left with only my app here so far. And I will also run through like what this does is, but to create like a new widget, or to show like a new element on screen, you do not have to like necessarily type in the class and everything like I did last time. You can use extensions. So there are extensions available in VS Code that speed up the whole process. So if I type in stateless, I can create like a new stateless widget, and I can call it home screen again. I call this home screen, and you'll see like the error goes away. If I save this file, nothing would be shown on screen, because right now I'm using like a placeholder widget. It like shows, it is just a placeholder. It shows nothing on screen. To talk about the flow really quickly, to see like how the code is going, we have our main function. So main function is the first one to get control with any programming language. This main functions runs the my app widget. So my app is the, base widget. And normally as Flutter developers, we leave it to be like the default my app widget that is there already. When you create a project, you normally leave it here, and then you can go on creating new files where you have all your other widgets. So this my app widget, all it does is it creates a material app. So material app is you know it it allows you to use some widgets associated with the material design. So it is the journal wrapper. If you are familiar with material design, it is like by the Google team itself. So if I search for material design, it is like the latest version of Google's design system. And there are like, if you go over to this material design itself, I think there is a dedicated section for Flutter also. Yeah, so you can go over to Flutter and see like all the latest announcements, resources, and more. So this material app generally is a wrapper for these material widgets that we want to use. One thing it allows us to do is add something called theme, a title, and such properties. And we create a home, so we tell it like the first widget to go to. So this is like the first widget, which is home screen in our case. This home screen is something we have created ourselves. And now let us say, okay, you come to this home screen down here. um, if like it doesn't make sense, please do not be overwhelmed right now. Like as we go on building projects, this becomes even more clearer. So inside this home screen, what I'll do is, if I type in text, I can give it some data. So I can say hello here, and if I save this file, you'll see like hello appear here. But this looks very bad. This doesn't look as good. So what I can do is I can keep my cursor on top of this text. I can hit this, bulb type icon, and it will tell me like wrap like wrap with the widget. And I can use something called a scaffold. So when I do that scaffold, I'll have to replace this child with something called body. What scaffold would generally do is, it acts like a widget that so if I go, it creates a visual scaffold for this material design widget, and it generally is used to tell all the elements on screen like where to be positioned. So with this scaffold widget, we can also add something called an app bar. So if you are like a mobile phone user, which I hope you are, you might have seen like app bar generally appear on your mobile apps. So it would add like an app bar on top. So this app bar is not uh, very visible, but if I just uh, not use material 3 for a bit, so you'll see like a blue app bar appear on screen. And this is how our code looks so far. So we have created a scaffold widget. It has a app bar property set to this app bar, and we have also created its body. So body is this white part that your screen, it has some text in it. So I can also add like the floating action button that we had seen. So this floating action button, as is there on like the Flutter app, what it needs is a on pressed. And if I save this, you'll see like a blue small button appear at the bottom of the screen. So now we talked about this text widget. What I'm trying to do is, just trying to get you familiarized with the list of widgets. So we'll use these widgets tomorrow when we build a complete application. The first widget that we talked about was text, used to like show something on screen, like a text, like used to show that text on screen. The next widget that we talked about was scaffold, which is right here. This widget is generally used to build like visual scaffold for material design widgets. What you can think of it as, we are adding this app bar, we are adding this button, but how would Flutter know like where to put it? So scaffold generally handles that. It generally tells widgets where to be, like the app bar should be on top, the floating action button should be right here on the side. Even if expand this application, it should be there. And scaffold manages that. Then we have we talked about scaffold, then we also talked about the column widget. So let us also see that in practice. Let us say like right now inside this body I'm only adding just one text, so this is hello and it is not that visible, so I'll just uh let's do that later. But right now it has like hello just showing up one widget here. So I can keep my cursor on top of this, or if I just cut this out for a bit, I can instead use a column widget in my Flutter app. Column, as I mentioned, it takes in this list of children, so I'll have to give it a list of these children, and then I can show like multiple text widgets on the screen. So I'll type in hello 3 times and it will show that hello multiple times on screen. So we can go on creating UIs like this. We can wrap a widget with column. There are also other layout widgets available. So if I go back to my widgets catalog, you'll see like there are other layout widget options. So under this layout, we talked about column, which was used to show this text one under each other, but we also have options to show it on the side. So we can use a row instead. So if I just wrap it with row and save this file, you'll see like hello appear just one after the other in the same line, even though they are like different widgets here. So we can use a combination of row column to arrange these elements on screen, and that we'll see in practice tomorrow. So we talked about column, we also talked about row today. And we like, if you have any questions around what floating action button is, so this is just a button. If you click on it, it will do something. And to make it do something, we can define a property called on pressed. So on pressed takes in a function. If you see, like, this is an unnamed function. We have our brackets to pass in some arguments, and we also have this function body. So I can type in print and give it like a hello world here, and use like the semicolon here. So now if I open up my console alongside, okay, so I have my console open, and when I click on this button, it should print out hello world to this console at the bottom. So that way we can also make these buttons do something, like if we click on the button, we can print out something to console. So one more widget that I want to tell you about is called container. So this container widget is like used to draw something on screen. It's a very simple widget, and inside this container we can give it like a height. So let us say 200 maybe, and a width also 200, and give it a color. So colors dot red. And when I do that, you'll see like a red box appear on screen. So what we are doing is like we created this container widget. So this is the name of the widget. We opened these two brackets, and then we can define certain properties for it. So let us say we wanted to change the height. We typed in height, we gave it a value. We typed in width, we gave it a value. Similarly, we wanted to change the color, so we can use the material colors and we can give it a value. So this could be dot red or dot yellow, and the color of the widget on screen would change. So in Flutter, we type in the name of the widget to add it on screen, like text hello. This is like a simple widget example, but we can also define certain properties for them in the same file. So if you're coming from web development, we write in it's HTML for structure. We have a CSS file to like change a few things on how widgets are aligned on screen and everything. But in Flutter, like you can type in the name of this widget, uh, g- modify its properties. Like I can similarly do for text also. So for text, I can change something called style and give it a different text style. And when I'm here in the text style, I can give it some value like maybe font size. So I can change that to 60. And if I just open up this a bit, so if I save this, you'll see like the size of this hello would become bigger than the other one. So you can define these properties inside here, like change the style to make the text a bit bigger and so on and so forth. So, okay, just zooming in a bit. This is like a list of widgets that we have talked about today. We saw text in action, how text is added in Flutter apps. We saw like why scaffold is there. Scaffold is generally used to align the different widgets. Like it allows us to add this app bar, floating action button, and more. It becomes this visual scaffold for material design widgets. We saw like how column and row are used. Column to align them vertically, row to have them one after the other. We also saw the container widget, which is just used to draw something on screen, like a box of height and width, and then give it some color to have something like this. The basic idea behind Flutter and everything we'll do in this workshop is like we use these widgets to build out our apps. So as a instructor for it, my goal is to introduce you to these widgets. As you go on building more projects, you'll know about like all other widget options that are available. So if you're building something, you know when you take up an internship or job later on, it will come to your mind, okay, that when I built that project, I used something similar and I used a widget for that, and it would get easier to build application. If it doesn't make sense immediately, that is okay. Like it took me some time to understand like what are widgets, how to use them, and everything. I also wanted you to find resources very easily. So if you want to like learn Dart, just the basics of it, you can go over to docs and go down to language samples. This would have like a small tour of how Dart works. But everything, like all the code that we write here in Flutter, like it's written in Dart programming, but normally all Flutter courses cover Dart programming, and it's very simple to understand. Uh, if you want to check out what widget options are available, so there is the Flutter widgets catalog that has them filtered out under different sections. So if you are trying to add animations, you can go over to this section, find widgets that allow you to add animation. And like this would make more sense as we continue with this. So today we have covered till here. What we'll start off with tomorrow is we'll start off with the project. If you can, please do install Flutter on your devices. For some reason, like zap.run isn't working properly. So please install Flutter to your devices. And tomorrow, what we'll do is we'll start with the project from scratch. We'll try to build out one thing we'll do is like a small UI exercise. And then we'll move on to building a application that uses like a simple API. So we'll do that tomorrow. That would teach us about using these widgets and also about stateful widgets. So far we have only talked about stateless widgets. Tomorrow we'll talk about stateful widgets, and we'll have that small API project by the end of this workshop. And if you have any questions for today, feel free to ask in the chat, and we'll take this up tomorrow again. Okay, a lot of folks here have Android devices, which is cool. Like you can build out for Android using Flutter. Uh, Flutter is only for Android development. No, Flutter is used for like cross-platform development, so you can build for Android, iOS, and multiple other platforms. it is for mobile and web also. Like the app that I was just running was running on Mac OS, but you can also run the same on Chrome, and you can also run for desktop. Like you can do all these three things. Share the link. Okay. Didn't get the back grooming question, but uh, okay. How did I get like a colorful widget? So I was using a container that was a different widget. Okay, the background. Okay, in the presentation that was just for UI reference. Like that is not real code. How to download Flutter? Okay. Uh, for this, I'll generally recommend you watching like a dedicated video. So if you go over to YouTube, you can search for how to set up Flutter. But this is like the link for the Flutter installation. Do we have to download Android Studio? So like you, if you are trying to set up Flutter for Android, right? So you'll need the, and like if you are trying to run your app on Android, you'll need Android SDK. The easiest way to download Android SDK is if you download Android Studio. It becomes like easier to do that. And if you are like a beginner, I always recommend Android Studio because debugging is easier on Android Studio. So that is just a personal thought, because I have been using Android Studio. I've used VS Code also. I prefer Android Studio for the debugging it offers with Flutter. Um and I would recommend that for any beginner. Again, if your like device is like, if you think your system cannot like if it cannot support Android Studio, so you can also check out how to install Flutter with VS Code. Like I think YouTube videos are available on that as well, so you can use VS Code as your ID. You do not have to use Android Studio then. Okay, awesome. Let me know any other questions. Feel free to connect, but we'll take up this tomorrow again. Like tomorrow, we want to build a project, something that you can show by the end of this workshop. And if I am too fast, too slow, please use the same giveaway form to leave feedback, because uh, that would, that has a section on how the session is going. So you can leave feedback there itself, or you can, text me on Twitter, maybe LinkedIn. That would also work. Awesome. We'll meet again tomorrow then.
Perfect. I guess we are on time.
Yep.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Aditya, for taking the session. It was really great. The way you explained about Flutter, taking real life examples and introduced Dart to the attendees was really amazing. Also, folks, I would like to suggest that please you all participate in the giveaway that Aditya is conducting, as mentorship is something that plays a huge role in skills upliftment, right? Uh, I hope you all are already excited for tomorrow's session. All the details about day 2 will be shared with you all again. So yeah, thanks for joining everyone. See you tomorrow.
Awesome. Just really quickly, one question that is there. Question by Rohan. I think you're asking about like, should you start with basic web development? Again, for Flutter, you do not have to know web development at first. Like Flutter is you can just go ahead and start learning Flutter first and try it out. If it works for you, if it doesn't, that's okay. uh, I started out with Flutter in my second year. Like I wasn't doing development first. I just knew Java programming. So I've been with Flutter since. So like you do not have to learn those, but you can learn it. Like generally, web concepts help a lot whenever you're building a mobile app, because a lot of these concepts come from web, because I think it was an older thing. So you are using APIs and such in mobile apps. So it generally helps. So yeah, thank you so much for joining in today. I guess we'll see you. I'll see you.
I'm audible.
Yeah, audible.
Sir, just follow up to my question, my query that मतलब अभी फर्स्ट ईयर में हूँ, जैसे मैं लिमिटेड टाइम है बिकॉज सेमेस्टर वगैरह चल रहा है ना, तो अगर एक ही चीज पे फोकस कर सके या तो बेसिक
हाँ.
HTML CSS एंड फ्लटर, तो क्या क्या करनी चाहिए अभी?
It is a personal choice, you know. I wouldn't say ki go with Flutter just because I teach it. So that would be wrong. It is totally for you to choose. I think matlab just from why I started with Flutter was because I wanted to go into mobile development. If you prefer web development, then you'll have to go with HTML, CSS, JavaScript. That is totally your choice. If you are concerned about ki aage jaake, there are jobs or not when you graduate. So with Flutter, a lot of startups hire. You are paid at par with any mobile developer. You do not have to worry about not being able to find a job. The I will talk about that also tomorrow, like the internship part, how to get your first internship as a Flutter developer. So yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Uh, Question around what resources you followed. So I took up the complete Flutter and Dart bootcamp course by Dr. Angela Yu on Udemy. It is like a complete course, and it is the same course that we are giving away in the give like in that. If you want to like instead learn Flutter on your own, so we have this Notion doc. It's go.learn.flutter.in. So there we have compiled some resources around like the free YouTube course and everything. Like you can find that link there on the Notion itself. And yeah, I was saving that for tomorrow, like talking about the resources, but anyways, if it helps. Awesome.